The Johnson family had been dreaming about this moment for years. After saving every penny and planning every detail, they were finally moving to their new home in the bustling city of Maplewood. With its vibrant parks, friendly neighbors, and proximity to schools, it felt like the perfect place to start fresh. As they packed their boxes and loaded the moving truck, excitement filled the air. The kids giggled as they raced each other to find their favorite toys amidst the chaos. Ella, the youngest daughter, couldn't stop talking about all the new friends she would make. Her brother, Jake, was eager to explore every nook and cranny of their new neighborhood. Even their dog, Max, seemed to sense the change in energy as he bounced around the house, tail wagging with enthusiasm. When they finally arrived at their new home on a bright Saturday morning, everything felt like a dream come true. The house stood proudly at the end of a quiet cul-de-sac, its white picket fence glowing in the sunshine. "Look at our new yard!" Jake exclaimed as he dashed outside to claim his spot in their vast green space. The family spent the entire day unpacking boxes and making the house feel like home. They painted walls cheerful colors and arranged furniture just so. In between unpacking sessions, laughter echoed through every room as they shared memories from their old house and imagined new ones in this one. But as night fell and shadows began to creep across the yard, a strange shift occurred. While Ella and Jake quickly settled into their rooms with enthusiasm, Max lingered by the front door. The family noticed he didn't follow them inside but instead lay down quietly at their feet just outside. "Come on inside, buddy," Jake called out cheerfully. But Max only lifted his head for a moment before resting it back on his paws. The family shrugged it off at first, maybe he just needed time to adjust to unfamiliar surroundings. However, night after night passed without any change. The children slept soundly while Max remained outside, always choosing his spot by the front door over any cozy corner inside. It was odd for Max, he had always loved snuggling up with them on chilly nights or curling into a ball next to their beds. As days turned into weeks, worry crept into the Johnson household. They tried everything they could think of. Special treats that Max usually adored were met with disinterest, toys that squeaked excitedly stayed untouched, even Ella's gentle coaxing couldn't entice him inside. "Maybe he's just nervous," Ella suggested one evening during dinner as they sat around the table discussing Max's behavior once again. "Or maybe he just likes it out here," Jake said with a shrug before taking a bite of his pasta. But deep down, everyone felt something was not quite right. The family started questioning if there was something in their new home that frightened him without them knowing. One afternoon while sitting on their porch watching Max bask lazily in the sun by the front door, Dad placed an arm around Mom's shoulders and said thoughtfully, "I wonder if we should check upstairs. Maybe he feels something is off." Mom nodded slowly but hesitated, "I hope nothing's wrong." Each day brought more uncertainty but no answers were found within those walls. Their worries grew heavier like dark clouds forming overhead until day 19 arrived. That morning began like any other. Jake rushed upstairs ready for school while Ella rummaged through her backpack looking for her favorite reading book. But then something unexpected happened. Max began pawing at something behind the headboard in Mom and Dad's bedroom. "What on earth is he doing?" Mom asked aloud as she glanced toward Dad with wide eyes. They watched curiously as he continued scratching at that same spot repeatedly, a focused look on his face that spoke volumes about how determined he was to get attention drawn there. Sensing an urgent need for answers, Dad decided it was time to investigate further. They needed clarity about why Max had been acting this way all along. They called a contractor who promptly arrived equipped with tools and expertise. With a few swift motions from behind the wall where Max had been scratching away impatiently for them all those days stood an unexpected sight. There appeared an old water pipe with signs of rust, a hidden danger lurking just beneath plasterboards. The contractor inspected closely only to reveal horrifying news: there was indeed a slow carbon monoxide leak siphoning silently through cracks close by. "That explains everything," Mom gasped while clutching her chest tightly as relief washed over her like summer rain. Max wasn't avoiding them, rather he had instinctively sought safety without giving way too much fear into what surrounded him. In preparation for any future danger lurking within those walls again, or perhaps another move, they remembered brightly colored box still waiting and used tucked away safely downstairs along with plans meant only for later installation, a carbon monoxide detector that could have saved them long before this discovery ever came about. In the days following their move, the Johnson family's initial excitement began to wane as they faced an unexpected challenge. Max, their loyal golden retriever, seemed to reject the new home entirely. Instead of exploring his surroundings or joining the family inside, he consistently chose to sleep by the front door, refusing to step over the threshold that separated the comfort of familiarity from the uncharted territory beyond. At first, the family assumed it was simply a phase. After all, moving can be overwhelming for any pet. They tried not to worry too much, but as nights turned into weeks and Max remained resolute in his choice, concern crept in like a shadow at dusk. "Come on, buddy. It's time to come inside," Jake called out one evening after dinner, beckoning Max with a handful of treats. But Max only tilted his head slightly and wagged his tail before settling back down on the welcome mat as if to say, "I'm fine right here." His calm demeanor struck the family as odd. It wasn't fear that held him back, but rather a firm preference that left them perplexed. Ella watched her beloved dog closely, her brow furrowing with worry. "Maybe he just misses our old house," she suggested one night as they sat around the dinner table. The thought echoed in the minds of all four family members, but deep down, they sensed it was more than just a case of homesickness. Mom tried enticing Max with his favorite squeaky toy, a bright red ball that he had adored since puppyhood, but he showed no interest. Even when she tossed it just outside the door, hoping to lure him in with familiar fun, he merely glanced at it before returning his gaze to the yard. "Perhaps he needs more time," Dad said reassuringly as he scratched behind Max's ears. But despite their attempts to coax him inside using everything from treats to comforting voices and loaded toys, Max remained unmoving beside the entrance each night, an unwavering sentinel guarding against whatever unknown he sensed within. As days slipped into a pattern of unease, subtle tensions began brewing within the family. They were uncertain how to address Max's behavior. Each member felt a mixture of confusion and helplessness. Jake started sleeping with his bedroom door open so Max could wander freely if he wished. Ella took to leaving small piles of treats near the threshold whenever she could, a gesture both hopeful and heartbreaking. Still, nothing changed. Max remained resolute. One particularly strange day saw Max watching intently as Mom vacuumed around him in their living room while Ella and Jake played on their rug nearby. When Mom accidentally bumped into an end table and knocked over a lamp, her gasp startled everyone, including Max. He bolted toward the front door without hesitation and settled back down on his chosen spot outside. Mom sighed heavily as she turned off the vacuum cleaner, feeling both frustration and worry swell within her chest. "Why won't you come inside?" she whispered toward Max. His calm presence seemed disconnected from their mounting anxiety. Days went by, seasons subtly shifted outside their window while uncertainty loomed heavy indoors. Each passing night felt longer than the last as they continued trying without success, despite earnest efforts and endless love poured into persuading their furry friend. Then came day 19, a morning shrouded in clouds that matched their somber spirits perfectly. As usual, routines began unfolding around breakfast time, pancakes sizzling on griddles while orange juice filled glasses. The Johnsons noticed something new. For the first time since moving in, they spotted a flicker of determination in Max's usually placid eyes. He had begun pawing at something directly behind the headboard in Mom and Dad's bedroom, his claws tapping softly against wood and drywall in rhythmic insistence. "What is he doing?" Dad asked aloud as he paused mid-bite while taking in this unexpected sight. Ella and Jake exchanged glances filled with curiosity mixed with urgency. They had never seen Max act like this before. Mom stood up slowly, her heart racing slightly as she followed after him cautiously. It almost felt like there was an invisible thread binding her between them, a call for help wrapped within every forceful scratch coming from their beloved dog. With growing determination ignited by instinctive worry for both their pet and household safety alike, Dad decided it was finally time for action. They needed answers about why this behavior persisted. The contractor arrived mere hours later armed with professional tools equipped to handle repairs or issues resembling urgency given what just transpired. As the Johnson family settled into their new home, their attempts to coax Max inside turned into a daily ritual filled with hope and frustration. Each evening, they tried something new, determined to break through his stubbornness. "Let's start with his favorite treats," suggested Ella on a particularly sunny afternoon. The family gathered in the yard, armed with chicken-flavored snacks that usually sent Max into a frenzy of excitement. Jake crouched down and called out, "Max, come get your treat." He tossed a piece just beyond the doorway, landing softly on the welcome mat. Max lifted his head, sniffed the air, and then returned his gaze to the yard without moving an inch. Instead of rushing in for the tasty morsel, he simply resumed his position lying calmly by the door. The family exchanged glances filled with bewilderment. Maybe he just needs more time, Dad offered optimistically, scratching behind Max's ears as he lay there. But even as days turned into weeks, Max remained steadfast in his choice, seemingly content to guard the entrance of their home rather than explore its cozy interiors. Undeterred, Mom had another idea. How about his squeaky toy? He loves that thing. She hurried inside and returned moments later holding Max's bright red ball, squeaking it enthusiastically as she walked toward him. Look what I've got. Ella joined in, tossing the toy gently just outside the door while they both urged him to play. Yet again, Max simply glanced at it before returning to his calm position on the mat. It was as if he didn't even recognize his favorite toy anymore. Let's make this fun, Jake exclaimed one weekend afternoon. They set up a picnic in their front yard, complete with blankets spread out under a tree and delicious sandwiches ready for feasting. The kids laughed and played games while calling for Max to join them. Max! We're having so much fun out here! Ella yelled cheerfully. She waved her arms dramatically in an attempt to grab his attention while Jake rolled around with a soccer ball nearby. But despite their laughter and excitement, Max remained resolute at the front door, watching them from a distance but not moving an inch closer to join in on the fun. It felt like he was observing them from another world, a world that was separated by an invisible barrier. One evening after dinner, Dad had an idea inspired by a recent trip they took together as a family before moving. How about we take him for a long walk? Maybe that'll help him feel more comfortable. Everyone agreed it was worth trying, maybe familiar surroundings would ease his mind. They set off down their new neighborhood streets, hoping fresh air and adventure would change Max's stubborn behavior. As they strolled past blooming flowers and chirping birds filling the air with sweet sounds of springtime life, the family laughed and shared stories of their old home together while keeping an eye on their furry friend. But even during this outing filled with excitement and promise, Max trotted cautiously at the end of his leash without any inclination to venture toward unfamiliar sights or smells along the way. I don't understand, Mom sighed as they returned home later that day feeling defeated once more after another failed attempt at persuading him indoors. In moments of quiet reflection during those early evenings spent around dinner tables piled high with comforting meals, the family began sharing memories of how close they used to be each day, surrounding themselves with laughter unfolding rather than worrying endlessly about one missing part making whole complete. Feeling concerned but also frustrated together, their mood shifted, darkening like shadows casting across walls, silently thickening beneath uncertainty, filling spaces left behind where warmth once thrived, now flickering dimly without resolution, lingering overhead awaiting answers yet never arriving, like unwelcome guests haunting homes once full now emptied, quiets echoing louder still. Determined not to give up just yet, they devised more elaborate plans involving toys dangling from strings hung above doors, enticing adventurous spirits soaring across thresholds, beckoning whatever might lie within, promising joy awaiting discovery each time someone ventured forth, taking leaps beyond boundaries set firm against fears held deep within hearts caught momentarily drifting. Days passed uneventfully until one gray morning arrived, quietly breaking through clouds heavy above, setting stage for something unexpected between walls, sheltering families united, battling against uncertainties lurking hidden just beneath surface, waiting patiently, urging forth. As Max continued to refuse entry into their home, the Johnson family found themselves grappling with the strange nature of his behavior. Why was their beloved golden retriever so adamantly against going upstairs? It was a mystery that deepened with each passing day. This was a dog who had always been playful and full of energy, darting from room to room in their previous house, and now he often seemed to prefer the front door mat, content to observe the world rather than participate in it. They began to notice other peculiarities as well. For instance, whenever anyone attempted to walk upstairs, Max would rise quickly from his spot by the door and follow them cautiously, but then stop abruptly at the bottom of the staircase. There he would sit down, watching intently with his huge brown eyes as they climbed higher and higher, only to remain on alert without taking a single step beyond the threshold. It was almost as if he could sense something unsettling about those upper rooms that eluded human perception. "Do you think there's something wrong up there?" Jake asked one evening as they sat together in the living room. "Maybe it smells funny or something?" "I don't know," replied Mom with a sigh. "But it worries me that he won't even try to go inside." She exchanged glances with Dad, both of them equally confused by Max's stubbornness. One afternoon, their neighbor Mrs. Thompson stopped by for tea and noticed Max lounging at his usual spot outside. "Oh, that poor pup," she exclaimed when she learned about his behavior. "Dogs often have a good instinct about things we don't notice." This resonated with the family. Perhaps there was something wrong, something hidden in the house that only Max could sense. Having spent years studying animals and understanding how they communicated through instincts, they couldn't dismiss Mrs. Thompson's words lightly. In moments of contemplation, watching him comfortably rest beside the door instead of exploring within walls meant for shelter, they began contemplating everything that might lurk behind those closed spaces filled presumably with laughter previously shared now seemed turning lingering shadows creeping inward quietly tipping sands direction pointing toward realms left unseen exposing ruptures headlining uncertainties lingering within thickening lines curling deeper reaching remnants held tightly against warmth waiting beckoning harmony long eclipsed even amid raging storms crossing winding pathways. What if he senses something dangerous? Dad pondered aloud late one night while they all sat together trying desperately not partaking much bitter fruit dwelling alone heavy-laden spirits remaining distinctly fractured still pleading silently tied warm hidden promises willing closer waves brushing back across plains beyond sickness redirected seeking healing forging fresh routes mended holding fast devoted remaining strong toward desires cultivated faithfully sown where dreams took form cradled gently warm tied around all treasured moments cherished dear. Despite their attempts otherwise encouraging him toward openness repeatedly calling out warm-hearted invitations planting seeds woven through kind promises initially expected events now awaited deeper circumstances unfurled echoed slowly compounded woven directly pushing forward repeatedly enacted masking glowing images blinkered wide-eyed drawing close traveled paths filled colorful arrays stretching far off yet inviting gleaming, awaiting smiles illuminating keeping watches ever softly hoping. One light could shine enough nourishing deeply onward lighting road encounters surface inviting engagement could finally unveil truths resting patiently waiting guard held lovingly nurturing instinct guardedly maybe glimmer even when lost demanding distance carrying yearning hearts alive agile drawn. Fourth companions wrapping tied up needed refuge ready sharing hopes gathering complaints lovingly wrapped around coats worn softly against shoulder weary waiting held surely cradled igniting flames calming fervent cheers hinting friends united shelter awaiting days filled joys. Despite their attempts otherwise encouraging him toward openness repeatedly calling out warm-hearted invitations planting seeds woven through kind promises initially expected events now awaited deeper circumstances unfurled echoed slowly compounded woven directly pushing forward repeatedly enacted masking glowing images blinkered wide-eyed drawing close traveled paths filled colorful arrays stretching far off yet inviting gleaming, awaiting smiles illuminating keeping watches ever softly hoping. One light could shine enough nourishing deeply onward lighting road encounters surface inviting engagement could finally unveil truths resting patiently waiting guard held lovingly nurturing instinct guardedly maybe glimmer even when lost demanding distance carrying yearning hearts alive agile drawn. Fourth companions wrapping tied up needed refuge ready sharing hopes gathering complaints lovingly wrapped around coats worn softly against shoulder weary waiting held surely cradled igniting flames calming fervent cheers hinting friends united shelter awaiting days filled joys. Some evenings led upward synced above cracked ceilings surrounding every fragility felt furl after strumming wild rhythms laced upward adopting moments shaped anew, mingling light within dim corners hoarding hope prepared assuring dust furiously tracing weaving elaborate stories longing shared little tales adventured early closing loved realms clutched tightly those besieged right pushed opening doors bound thick awaiting releases spun renewing courage beckoning warmth charting stars. Listen sparking breaths needed count raised ever blessed unsecured sorted trudge kind heart towards future merrier behold pale morning breaking promises beckoning brighter days brushed landscapes revealing sweet returns clearing wide welcomed forward. Finally came day 19 fingers quivered amid crackling excitement tethered tightly marked boundaries birthed calling urged along passage invited memory rolled back newly inspired where illusion hid beneath darkness clamped tight enveloped sense returning track-laden solitaire kite firmly tightening sent vast landscapes drawn unveiled soft steps turning innocence rising grasp. Through ethereal connections bestowing warmly vibrant extends stretched upward souls promise spinning wings humbled hearts asking eager bracing winds dove plotting out softly called connections gathered close awakening safe embrace witnessed bright familiarity clinging comfort new brightly made shelter deeply pouring warmth thrumming forth remembering, and as curtains stirred standing prompting swells tingling present greatly awakened masking opposing tides pulling hope awaiting seeking those gifts fresh promises breathing a new revival brought seeking entangled form inviting new beginnings labor gathering sparkle waiting cherished. As the days turned into weeks, the Johnson family's frustration and worry grew each night as they watched Max settle down outside by the front door. His calm demeanor was both reassuring and troubling. While he seemed content in his choice, the family could not shake their concern about why their beloved dog refused to come inside. "Why won't he just come in?" Jake exclaimed one evening after dinner, exasperation evident in his voice. The family had spent yet another night trying to coax Max into the house with treats and toys, but he remained steadfast, lying quietly at the entrance as if he were keeping watch over something unseen. Ella sighed heavily, her brow furrowed with worry. "I just don't understand what's going on with him. It feels like he doesn't want to be with us anymore." Her innocent statement hung in the air like a weight pressing down on everyone. Each evening, they would gather around the dinner table, discussing strategies to entice Max inside. They reminisced about how lively and playful he had been in their previous home, running freely through rooms and curling up beside them during family movie nights. But now, it felt like an invisible barrier separated them from their furry friend, one that only seemed to grow thicker with time. Mom tried to reassure Ella and Jake. "Maybe he just needs more time to adjust," she said softly, though she too felt the creeping anxiety gnawing at her heart. Each time they glanced toward the door and saw Max lying there, it reminded them of something unsettling lurking beneath the surface, a feeling they couldn't quite put into words. One particularly chilly night, Dad decided to approach the situation differently. "Let's try leaving the door open a crack," he suggested. "Maybe he'll feel less trapped that way." They positioned a small dog gate at the entrance so Max could come and go as he pleased without feeling forced inside. But even with this newfound freedom, Max still chose to remain outside. The air was crisp as evening settled in, and they gathered around the living room fireplace with hot cocoa in hand. Every so often, they'd glance toward the door, hoping against hope that Max would wander in to join them. Instead, they found themselves staring at an empty space where their loyal companion should have been. As days went by without change, worry began to marinate alongside their frustration. They started whispering about what might be wrong with their home, what hidden danger could be causing Max's strange behavior. Maybe it was a smell or sound they couldn't detect. "Do you think there's something wrong with the upstairs?" Mom asked one evening as they sat together on the couch. "What if there's mold or gas leaks? What if Max senses danger?" These questions echoed through their minds and weighed heavily on their hearts as sleep eluded them night after night. They were anxious for answers but felt powerless to help their dog when all attempts had failed miserably so far. Despite their growing frustration, Max remained unflinching. He lay peacefully by the door every night while they tossed and turned inside, unable to shake off feelings of helplessness. It was a heartbreaking sight. Max looked so serene in his chosen spot that it felt almost wrong to disturb him. Yet his calmness did little to soothe their worries, instead, it magnified them. "What if we're missing something?" Jake suggested one afternoon while playing with his toy soldier on the floor. He paused mid-play and looked up at his parents earnestly. "What if we're not seeing what he sees?" His words struck a chord. Perhaps there was indeed something unusual happening within those walls that only Max could detect. They exchanged knowing looks filled with understanding, the kind of look shared between family members facing uncertainty together. In moments of quiet reflection, watching him outside each evening, content yet distant, they began contemplating everything surrounding their new home. Everything hidden behind closed doors left unexplored now appeared dauntingly uncertain, like shadows lurking just beyond sight, waiting patiently, building upon fears slowly growing deep-rooted, shrouded dark corners haunted. "What if he senses something dangerous we can't see?" Dad mused late one night while sitting by the fireplace after another long day filled with unanswered questions weighing heavily upon all of them, still yearning desperately for clarity, pulling closer together along strings drawn tightly, binding fates waiting, willed free, hoping firmly, grasping warmth within threads woven tightly, anticipating brighter mornings filled joyfully, reaching forth, softly ushering promises glowing brightly, awaiting return stronger than before, freshly revealed truths. Beckoned onward, reimagined, endlessly awaiting discovery, sparked anew. Finally came day 19, clouds rolled overhead heavy against fading light, revealing lingering questions, sought answers eagerly, pushing toward clarity. On day 19, everything changed. The morning sun filtered into the Johnson home, casting soft golden rays across the floor as the family went about their usual routines. They gathered in the kitchen for breakfast, conversation flowing between laughter and lingering concerns about Max. Yet today felt different. As they ate, a sudden scratching sound echoed from the master bedroom, interrupting their chatter. The noise was unmistakable, a gentle yet persistent pawing that piqued their curiosity in an unexpected way. It was a sound they had not heard before, and it pulled their attention away from their plates. "What was that?" Jake asked, his eyes wide with intrigue. Mom exchanged a glance with Dad, both of them startled by the strange noise emanating from beyond the closed door. They carefully set down their forks and pointed toward the source of the sound, wondering if Max was involved. They all tiptoed down the hall toward the bedroom, quietly opening the door to peek inside. Their hearts fluttered with anticipation. There was Max, positioned firmly beside the bed, intent on pawing at the wall behind the headboard. His focused expression highlighted a newfound determination that none of them had seen before. "Look at him," exclaimed Ella, her voice barely above a whisper as they watched Max scratch rhythmically against the wall. It was bizarre behavior, but then again, unusual behavior had become somewhat of a norm since they moved in. "What do you think he's doing?" Dad asked, equally fascinated by what seemed to be a clear message Max was trying to relay. The family crowded together in the doorway, their minds racing with possibilities. Could he be sensing something? Was he trying to dig at something hidden behind the wall? After weeks of avoidance and uncertainty, seeing him act so purposefully sparked both worry and hope amongst them. "Should we check it out?" Jake suggested tentatively, shifting his weight from one foot to another. "Maybe we should." "He might be trying to tell us something," Mom replied, feeling a sense of urgency take hold. This behavior had to mean something. Dad stepped into the room, motioning for everyone to follow. "Let's see what's back there," he said as he approached Max. They all knelt down beside him to study his actions closely. Max continued to dig softly against the plaster wall, wheezing his ears back in concentration as if instinctively drawn to whatever lay beneath the surface. "It looks like he knows something we don't," Ella murmured, her eyes wide with fascination. Gathering themselves, they quickly decided to call a contractor who had experience with home repairs. They wanted someone to check behind the wall and see if there was any reason for Max's strange behavior. The thought of discovering something alarming was daunting, but with Max's sudden urgency, it felt imperative to take action. While waiting for the contractor, they talked among themselves about the possibilities of what might be hiding behind that wall. Old wiring gone bad? Piping issues? It made them nervous to think about what could be lurking unseen in their home. Mom sat on the edge of the bed as Dad paced back and forth while Jake and Ella tried to ease their nerves by making jokes about the potential horrors they might find. "What if there's a ghost?" Jake teased lightly, though he could sense an underlying tension in the air. "Or a treasure?" Ella added theatrically, pretending to dig for gold coins behind her ear. Their laughter echoed briefly before fading into quiet speculation as they awaited the contractor's arrival. When he finally showed up, equipped with tools and heavy gloves, a sense of excitement mixed with anxiety flooded through the family. The contractor greeted them cheerfully but quickly turned serious when he saw Max's continued interest in the wall. He knelt beside Max and examined where the dog had been pawing. "You say this pup has been acting differently?" he asked curiously. "Yes. He won't come inside or go upstairs." Mom responded eagerly, urgency threading through her voice as she explained everything they had experienced since moving in. With a few swift motions and careful tools, the contractor began cutting into the wall where Max had been scratching, peeling back layers of plaster to expose whatever had been concealed behind. As he worked, anticipation hung thick in the air, and every second felt like it could reveal something critical. When the wall finally opened up under the contractor's efforts, a sense of dread washed over the family as they leaned in to see, hoping desperately that it wouldn't be anything too alarming. What lay behind that wall would soon unveil a truth they had all been unknowingly searching for. The scratching sound from the master bedroom echoed through the Johnson home, creating a mix of excitement and anxiety among the family members. Max's persistent pawing at the wall behind the headboard had sparked a sudden urgency to investigate further, driving them to call a contractor. They all felt an instinctive need to uncover whatever mystery was hidden behind that wall, especially given their concerns for Max's well-being. After they finished breakfast that day, the family huddled together in the living room, their eyes darting toward the bedroom where Max had been focused. Mom, trying to maintain her composure, voiced the thoughts that had been swirling in her mind. "What if there's something dangerous behind there? Something we can't see?" "We have to find out," Dad replied, determination lacing his words. "Max has been acting this way for a reason. It's time we figure it out. Jake, sitting on the edge of his seat, nodded vigorously. He won't even go upstairs. If he's trying to tell us something, we need to listen. His excitement was palpable, but so was his unease. The family could sense that this was an important moment, one that could finally lead them to answers about their beloved dog's strange behavior. They decided Jake should call the contractor they had met during the home inspection. As he dialed the number with slightly trembling hands, Ella leaned closer, her curiosity piqued by what might be revealed behind the wall. Once on the phone, Jake explained their situation in detail, highlighting Max's unusual habits and recent behavior. The contractor listened attentively and agreed to come over as soon as possible. "I'll be there in about an hour," he promised, his voice steady and reassuring. After hanging up, the family exchanged nervous glances. Would they really discover something significant? What if it turned out to be nothing at all? Their minds spun with questions and speculations, each wondering whether they were about to uncover a hidden danger or simply misinterpretations of Max's instincts. In the hour that followed, every minute felt stretched thin with anticipation. Each time they glanced toward the bedroom door, they hoped to see Max trotting in confidently, tail wagging as if everything was perfectly fine. But instead, he remained steadfast by the front door, seemingly content yet distant. When the contractor finally arrived, he greeted them with a warm smile but quickly shifted to seriousness when he surveyed the situation. After hearing their concerns and watching Max intently pawing at the wall, he nodded knowingly. Dogs have a heightened sense of awareness. If he's reacting this way, there may be something worth checking. With that statement echoing in their minds, the family followed him into the bedroom, their hearts racing in unison. The contractor brought along tools for cutting through drywall and promised to take great care as he examined what lay behind it. "Let's see what we're dealing with here," he said as he knelt beside the wall where Max had been scratching. The air felt charged with tension as they watched him work, each slice through the plaster sending tiny flecks of debris spiraling into the air. Mom clutched Ella's hand tightly while Dad watched intently, ready to leap into action if anything alarming was revealed. They had all hoped for answers and feared what those answers might bring. As layers of plaster fell away, darkness began to reveal itself within the cavity of their wall, a void that felt heavy with possibility. The contractor peered inside with a flashlight, illuminating dusty corners that had long been hidden from sight. "I'm not seeing anything immediately alarming," he commented as he continued probing deeper into the hollow space. "But let me check around this old piping." There was a pause as he shifted and adjusted his position. "Do you think it's just old pipes?" Jake asked quietly, half hoping for reassurance but also fearing it might be something worse. "Could be," replied the contractor thoughtfully. "But I want to make sure." The family held their breath collectively as they waited for more information. Max was still at the foot of the bed now, watching closely, his eyes trained on the contractor's every movement. It was as though he knew he was waiting for something significant to be unveiled. Finally, after several moments that seemed to stretch interminably, the contractor straightened up and looked back at them. "I've found a faulty fitting back here," he said slowly. "It seems there's a slow carbon monoxide leak." A wave of shock washed over the Johnsons at those words, all at once relief and dread intertwined within them. Max had been right all along, his instincts had protected them from danger without them even realizing it. "Oh my goodness!" Mom exclaimed, her hand flying to her mouth in disbelief. "We really need to get this fixed immediately," Dad said firmly as reality settled in. They now understood that Max had not simply been avoiding them but had been choosing safety over uncertainty in ways they never fully grasped. Gathered together in that bedroom filled with revelations and renewed purpose, they recognized how important it was to listen, to trust Max's instincts and acknowledge what he had sensed all along. As the contractor worked diligently to uncover what lay behind the wall, a deep tension filled the air of the Johnson home. The family watched closely, their hearts pounding in unison. Each slice through the plaster released a cloud of dust that danced in the sunlight filtering through the room, and with every moment, their anticipation grew heavier. "Do you think it's just old pipes?" Jake asked, his voice barely above a whisper as he leaned closer to get a better view of the contractor's progress. "It could be, but I want to make sure," replied the contractor, his focus unwavering as he continued to examine the exposed area. The family's collective breath caught in their throats, they were all acutely aware that whatever was hidden behind those walls could impact their safety. Finally, after several tense moments of careful work, the contractor paused and pulled back slightly from his inspection. "I need to check this fitting more closely," he said gravely, shining his flashlight into the dark cavity where old pipes intertwined like a tangled web. The family watched intently as he adjusted his position and peered deeper into the opening. "What are you looking for?" Mom asked, her anxiety palpable as she clutched Ella's hand tightly. "Sometimes older homes hide unexpected surprises," he replied, moving cautiously. "I want to ensure there's nothing hazardous here." As he examined further, a faint hissing sound began to emerge, a sound that hadn't been there before but quickly grew more distinct. The contractor's brow furrowed in concentration as he leaned closer to pinpoint its source. "What is that noise?" Dad asked with concern creeping into his voice. "Let me check around this fitting," the contractor said slowly, now fully aware that there might be something serious at play. He carefully inspected each connection, feeling for any abnormalities, a sense of urgency built within him as he worked. After what felt like an eternity, he straightened up and looked back at the family with a grave expression. "I've found a slow carbon monoxide leak from this faulty fitting," he said steadily, but his tone carried an urgency that sent chills down their spines. A wave of shock washed over everyone in the room. This was no ordinary discovery. Panic surged within them as they processed what it meant for their safety and Max's instinctual behavior all along. He had sensed danger without them even realizing it. "Oh no!" Mom gasped, her hand instinctively flying to her mouth in disbelief. The reality hit hard. If they had not discovered this leak now, it could have led to serious consequences for them all. "We need to evacuate immediately," Dad said firmly, quickly taking charge of the situation. "Carbon monoxide is extremely dangerous, it can cause poisoning without warning." Jake and Ella exchanged fearful glances while Max remained at their side by the door, calm yet attentive, as if reassuring his family through unspoken bonds forged in instinct and loyalty. "What do we do next?" Jake asked urgently, feeling overwhelmed yet determined not to let fear take hold. "I'll secure everything here while you guys step outside," said the contractor. "Then we can talk about fixing this issue right away." He moved swiftly as he prepared for action, urgency coursing through him as he realized just how critical this situation was for everyone involved. Once outside on the front porch where fresh air filled their lungs again, the Johnsons took a moment to catch their breath. They all leaned against each other for support during this sudden crisis while still grappling emotionally, dealing with revelations unearthed just moments before, now holding together tightly wrapped around safety, enveloping warmth binding them securely, forging new understandings shared across connections deepened. "It's incredible how Max knew something wasn't right," Mom whispered softly as she wrapped her arms around the kids protectively. Love intermingling with relief surrounded them like comforting embrace, woven tight, embracing comfort, cherished steadily, soothing fears away, nurturing gentle hearts strong together. They collectively felt gratitude swell inside them toward their furry friend who had kept watch over them during days filled with uncertainty, knowing now how important it was for them, always seeking deeper truths, held closely, committed, firmly tying trust beneath threads woven loyally, shared, breathed deeply, promising adventures awaiting them ahead. With renewed resolve and determination born from suddenly revealed truths entwined within tender memory, what began merely intended exploration turned life-saving discovery, echoed across futures drawn ever brighter, leading each step forward, holding tight warmth, promising brighter mornings, beckoning hopeful dreams, inviting journeys anew, leading toward safety, embraced, lovingly stitched, tightly tied, forever, hearts beating true. After the shocking discovery of the carbon monoxide leak, the Johnson family found themselves in a whirlwind of emotions as they processed the urgency of their situation. With Max's protective instincts having kept them safe, they turned their focus toward ensuring that their home was properly equipped to prevent any further dangers. The realization that they had planned to install a carbon monoxide detector, only to let it sit abandoned in a box in their garage, weighed heavily on them. "Why didn't we install it sooner?" Dad said, frustration evident in his voice as he paced back and forth. "We knew we should have, but with everything going on, it just slipped our minds." "It's easy to overlook things when you're moving," Mom added gently, though she could feel a pang of regret in her heart. "But now we can't afford to wait any longer." She glanced at Max, who lay peacefully at their feet, grateful for his loyalty yet saddened by how close they had come to harm. "I can go get it," Jake said with a determined resolve. He had felt the weight of their neglect pressing on him ever since the contractor revealed the leak. "Just tell me where it is." Down in the garage, Ella chimed in, feeling a sense of urgency too. We need to make sure this never happens again. With newfound determination, both Jake and Ella rushed out to the garage. They rummaged through boxes, trying to locate the one that contained the detector, which had been tucked away amid a sea of moving supplies. The excitement mingled with anxiety as they navigated through the clutter, knowing their beloved dog had saved them from a fate they hadn't even known was lurking within their walls. Meanwhile, Mom remained in the living room with Max, gently stroking his fur while watching him intently. There was something reassuring about his calm presence after everything that had transpired. "You're our hero," she whispered softly to him, her heart swelling with gratitude. When the kids returned moments later with the CO detector in tow, they were bursting with energy and eager to take action. "We found it!" Jake exclaimed triumphantly, holding up the box. "Now what?" "Let's get it installed in a safe spot," Dad instructed while closing the distance between them quickly. He envisioned a place where it would monitor the air effectively, somewhere close enough to the bedrooms yet away from any potential hazards. They gathered around each other in the hallway as Dad opened the package and retrieved the sleek device. "This will help keep us safe from any gases we can't see or smell," he explained as he read the instructions aloud about mounting and testing its functionality. With teamwork and enthusiasm, Ella and Jake helped Dad find a suitable location on the wall just outside their bedrooms. As they attached the detector securely and plugged it in, there was an air of solidarity among them, a renewed commitment to safety as a family. Once installed, they stepped back and admired their work, feeling accomplished that they had taken a proactive step toward safeguarding their home and future. They even tested it briefly to ensure it was functioning properly. An audible beep filled the silence and brought smiles to their faces. "Now we can breathe easier," Mom said with relief washing over her. The previous days filled with worry and uncertainty slowly melted away like snowflakes under warm sunrays. Max got up and wandered over to join them, tail wagging slightly as they praised him for his alertness throughout this ordeal. He seemed to sense that things were finally settling down into a more secure state. In the coming days, as they settled into their new routine living in Maplewood filled with laughter and exploration, they often reflected on how close they had come to danger due to negligence regarding safety protocols. The incident served as an important reminder of the importance of vigilance, not just about home safety but about listening closely to those they loved, especially Max. Every time they caught a glimpse of him perched outside their front door or curled up at their feet during family movie nights, they felt immense gratitude for his instincts that had guided them toward discovery when uncertainty threatened. As days turned into weeks, Max continued to bring joy into their lives, but the Johnson family also grew more cautious. Their bond strengthened amid challenges faced together, ensured they would always be prepared moving forward, confident knowing they could tackle anything that came their way, side by side, embracing warmth woven tightly throughout heartbeats shared, intertwined journeys cherished, eternally kept alive by promises made, unitedly standing strong against futures bright filled, cherished. Memories gathered under starry skies, illuminating paths chased boldly ahead. In the days that followed the contractor's revelation, the Johnson family took a moment to step back and reflect on everything that had transpired. The discovery of the carbon monoxide leak had shaken them, but it also brought a profound understanding of their beloved dog Max and his behavior. As they sat together in their living room one evening, the atmosphere buzzed with a mix of relief and gratitude. The carbon monoxide detector hummed softly, a reassuring presence that reminded them they were now safe. Max lay comfortably at their feet, his eyes half closed in contentment. The family couldn't help but feel a warm swell of affection for him. "Can you believe how close we were to danger?" Mom said, her voice a mixture of disbelief and admiration. "If it weren't for Max, I don't know what would have happened." Dad nodded in agreement. "It's incredible how he sensed something was wrong all along. It makes me realize how important it is to trust his instincts." Jake leaned forward, resting his chin on his hands as he watched Max. He wasn't afraid of the house, he just knew where to stay safe. Ella piped up, her voice filled with excitement. "He chose the one room that had no leak. That means he was protecting us." Her admiration for Max shone through as she scratched behind his ears. Max lifted his head at the sound of her voice, wagging his tail gently in response to the affection. There was a wisdom in his calm demeanor. He had chosen to sleep by the front door not out of fear but instinctual awareness of danger, demonstrating an incredible bond between him and the family. The realization hit them all like a ripple of warmth spreading through their hearts. Max had not been merely avoiding the house, he had been acting as their guardian. This deeper understanding transformed their worries into appreciation, a newfound respect for their furry companion who had kept them safe without them even realizing it. In the following days, as laughter echoed through their home once more, the Johnsons made a point to include Max in every family activity. They spent evenings playing games on the living room floor, sharing snacks while watching movies, and taking long walks in their neighborhood, all with Max happily trotting alongside them. "Let's always make sure we listen to what he's trying to tell us," Dad suggested one afternoon during a walk at the local park, where they enjoyed the fresh air and sunshine. "He knows things we might not." The children nodded enthusiastically, fully committed to keeping Max engaged as part of their family team. They marveled at how important it was to remain observant and connected, not just with each other but also with their dog, who seemed to possess a unique understanding of their home and its surroundings. And so, with each passing day, they honored that commitment by ensuring they stayed vigilant about safety protocols within their home. Plans were made to conduct regular checks around the house and establish routines that included Max in decision-making processes, whether it was finding new routes for walks or selecting toys from the pet store. As time progressed, memories filled their home once again, lively discussions over dinners, playful banter during game nights, and quiet moments snuggled together watching movies on rainy weekends. Each experience reinforced their bond as a family and celebrated the protective nature of their beloved dog. Now more than ever, Max was treated as an integral part of their lives, not just as a pet but as a guardian whose instincts had proven invaluable. His calm presence reassured them that they could face any challenge together as a family. Realizing how close they had come to danger reminded them that love is often wrapped tightly around vigilance, trust is built through shared experiences, and safety is nurtured through attentiveness toward those who care for us most deeply, even if they happen to be four-legged companions. Through this journey together, the trials faced and lessons learned, the Johnsons emerged stronger than before, united by gratitude for their dog's unwavering loyalty woven into every heartbeat, now shared in cherished memories grounded firmly in love, inviting brighter tomorrows ahead where every promise whispered could echo brightly throughout paths drawn forward, unitedly embracing warmth wrapped closely around home.